Chargers, Raiders, Rams have all been trying to get, this thing worked. Well, the Rams had their act together, and the Raiders didn't. Of all three teams, the Raiders were the only one that didn't really put a proposal in front of the NFL. What a shock. So now the Raiders, according to a story, have already secured land in San Antonio. And Red McCombs, who's an 88-year-old billionaire, told ESPN Radio in San Antonio on Wednesday that he has talked to the Raiders owner, Mark Davis, after the Raiders withdrew their application to relocate in Los Angeles. So here's the 88-year-old billionaire, Red McCombs, about the Raiders moving to San Antonio where he lives.
He has a feeling for the state of California and particularly Oakland, but it appears that he's going to need to go somewhere and not there. If he does decide to go somewhere, we want him to decide to come here.
So San Antonio, Austin, much like Phoenix and Tucson, is becoming one city. So San Antonio and Austin is absolutely capable of hosting an NFL franchise. I think they would be an absolutely perfect pick. It is a growing fast market. They would put their arms around the team, and operationally, they would have to be better. Let's be honest about the Raiders, and this is not a shot at anybody. It's the truth. Operationally, they've had some good teams over the last 30 years, but operationally, they've been a joke. They've been like the weird man out. They're like an NFL franchise, but operationally, not really. And I'll give you an example. Remember years ago, there was this thing called the UPN network. Now, you've always had ABC, then you've had NBC, and then you've had CBS, and then you've had Fox, right? Then they had this thing called the UPN network. It was a real network, like the Raiders. It was a real football team. But it was like on Channel 13 on your local network, and my remote used to just skip past 13. It would go like 11 to 18, some preacher or something. But it would skip over the network. My remote didn't even go to the network.
Like
right?
a hotel elevator.
Yes.
How you can't press 13.
Yeah. So like UPN, like the Raiders, it was a network, but it was like so fringe, and operationally it didn't feel like a network. The UPN network had a show called Homeboys in Outer Space. I'm not making that up. So the UPN network, it was a network, but it was like that silly, odd. And that's the Raiders. They're a franchise, but they tarp off the upper deck. They sued the league. I mean, they have the worst stadium deal. They're just a mess. You know what I mean? They can't get their act together. So when I look at the Raiders, and I don't feel bad saying this, it's time for San Antonio, Austin, this wildly emerging, growing, capable market that supports Texas football, that supports the Spurs. Jerry Jones won't like it. That city deserves an NFL franchise. Let's give it to some grown-ups down in San Antonio and Austin. And I don't care who owns it, but they'll give the Raiders land. They'll build a real stadium. You'll have real support. It'll be okay to take your kids to the game and not be worried at times. We've seen the Raiders for 30 years. They couldn't even put a legitimate proposal on the table for the NFL. You've known this thing was coming for 20 years. San Diego did. The Rams did. The Raiders didn't. It's over.